Hi, Ravi. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. It is a pleasure to have you as my guest, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story with social media. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for getting in touch with me. And when I first heard about the podcast, I was super excited to be on. And I've been doing social media a long time. So hopefully we can give your listeners a lot of great value and insights today.
I'm sure it's going to be a great discussion. Okay, so let's start this podcast episode by getting to know you a little bit better. How would you describe yourself in a few words?
Yeah, good question. I'd probably say creative, passionate, and I guess the last one would be probably I'd say organized. I like to keep everything neat and tidy and like personal and business wise. So I'll probably maybe some people might say a little bit OCD, but I like to have things organized because it makes things a lot easier to manage.
Seems like the perfect combination of skills for working in social media, right? But we'll
Yeah.
we'll get to that later on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so tell us, how did you start your career? I'm curious if you have always worked in social media or if it was something
Yeah.
that happened later in your life.
Yeah, really good question. So I've been in social media marketing now for over 11 years. And when I first started, it wasn't called social media. So I actually had a job for marketing executive or something. And I went into the building, I finished my interview, and then they said, "Oh, we're very excited to give you the job." And then when I found out it was actually Samsung UK, so running the whole social media for Samsung, and that was my first ever job, running their Twitter, their Facebook, and their YouTube accounts, all manually with no software at the beginning. So that was a pretty crazy experience.
I can imagine, yeah. Okay, so you started big with a big company with Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do next?
So after Samsung, that was my first in-house social media experience. And then after that, I went to an agency. And then from there onwards, for the next, 5 to 7 years, I managed a combination of agencies and in-house. And I started my own social media agency at the same time because I was finding I was getting these questions a lot more. So I decided to help businesses out run their social and their strategies, as well as helping agencies and in-house clients and brands as well.
That's great. Okay, so you have quite a lot of a journey back there. So you've worked both for in-house companies, for brands, and you have experience in freelancing as well. Can you tell us what is the difference between working for a company and working for yourself, working in freelancing?
Yeah, sure. So the difference is working for a company, you're obviously well, there's two differences. One is obviously financially as well. You're paid like a set amount every month. That's like your salary or your job for a company. So it's a bit more security. Working for yourself, you only get paid when you invoice a client and they pay you. So you have a bit more freedom in terms of how much you can earn, but at the same time, you're not guaranteed to have the same income every month. So that's why when freelancing, you really want to make sure your pipeline or your potential clients and lists of potential leads is always coming in, because a client could say yes or no at any minute, and you don't want to be left with just like one client. So financially, that's the difference. In terms of day to day, in-house, if you're just managing one client and one pair of social channels, so you can actually build up expertise into that client's brand, into their tone of voice and their content. If you're a freelancer, you have to kind of wear many different hats because you have to manage their social. You also have to manage all the reporting. You have to manage a bit of the admin to make sure like you're invoicing them and to have conversations about strategy. And you may have multiple clients. So you could be doing jewelry on Monday, and you could be doing clothing on Tuesday, and dog food on Wednesday. So as a marketer, if you're able to balance different multiple clients, then I would say the freelancing route is something that you could also explore, because working in agencies is similar to freelancing, where you manage multiple clients at any given time.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. And thank you so much for the clarification. And because you mentioned earlier your daily activities, now I know that you work at Agorapulse. I'm not sure if you're doing freelancing as well, but can you tell us what does a day in your work life look like? Because I know a lot of people who don't work in social media who think that working in social media is easy and all you have to do is just scroll through social media platforms all day long.
Just check your tweets and then you're done.
Yeah.
I wish it was that simple. Maybe on your personal profile that is. I'm still with Agorapulse. I look after the marketing for Agorapulse in the UK and Ireland. But in terms of social media job, like a typical social media manager job, typically, if I do like a quick Monday to Friday, like a quick run through, it'll essentially be like in the beginning of the week, you want to check your reporting, you want to see what happened last week. You obviously have to check your notifications every day. The difference with someone working in social is you have to plan your content in advance. So if you already have a strategy, you can follow that strategy so you know what you're going to share each week and there's a clear direction. But then you have to research the content. So where do I find it? Who's going to share it? Do I need ads budget, etc.? So you do that planning in the week. And the difference also with social media managers is you're managing all the relationships for that. So you have to speak to your graphic designer to create the images, your video editor for the videos. If you're doing influencer outreach or partnerships, you have to speak to the third party to make sure what they're going to say, when they're going to say it, are they going to use the right hashtags, the tags. And then also Twitter doesn't, or not Twitter, but social media generally doesn't sleep. So notifications can come in from your business, people mentioning you, someone complaining, someone saying you're amazing. So you have to be reactive and you have to be able to retweet and share and reply to that. So you have the reporting part of the role, you have the managing the admin part of the role, and then you have the fun creative part of the role as well. So you can have fun with images, different videos, stories, reels, TikToks. You can really be creative, and that's what's unique with social media management. But again, it's not like I get to spend all day creating stuff. You have a set time to do that, and then the rest of the time you have to build it into the strategy. Because one big thing for social media managers, and people may be listening to this, is proving social media works for your brand or your business. So you need to make sure you have the reporting in place so you can tell your client or your boss how many clicks you got, how well the social channels are performing, so they can have more confidence in investing in social and obviously investing in you as a social media manager.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of tasks and activities that you have to juggle with, and this is exactly what we're trying to teach our audience with this podcast, that this is a real job and it's a tough job and a complex one, and it's not for everyone, definitely. And it requires a lot of skills. You mentioned earlier something about finding content ideas, and I was curious, how do you keep finding unique and engaging content ideas for your campaigns, for your strategies?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think there's a couple of ways to do it. The easiest way to do it is, first of all, look at your data, like have a look at your reporting. Social media changes very often. I would say look at the last 7 days and have a look what's got the most traffic for your brand or your business. Is it links? Is it photos? Is it that time that you shared something that was trending? What's getting the most engagement? And you want to kind of use that content as a flag to say, I need to be sharing more of this because this is working. So if you're going to ask me, generally, video content works the best on mostly all platforms.
Yes.
And especially Instagram's moving towards video. And it's something that is more engaging as well in the newsfeed. So where you find content. So part one is going to be your reporting from last week to see what's working. The second step, you could obviously do research and look into competitors. You could do research into hashtags as well. So I'm just making this up, but if you're a jewelry business and you want to find out what other people are doing in jewelry sector, if you went onto Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and typed in hashtag, wedding jewelry or engagement rings, for example, you'll see all the posts of competitors and other people doing it. And you could use those as inspiration and ideas on what you can share. And the good thing about social networks like Twitter is they're public. So if you scroll through another jeweler's feed, you'll clearly see what gets the most retweets and shares, and you can use that information as well. There's also tools like BuzzSumo and things like that, where if you type in a topic, it'll automatically tell you the top blogs and the top sites that are sharing that content. So you know that that topic is going to be something that's really popular. And like, for example, like BuzzSumo, it'll rank it based on how many shares it's got. So so looking at your reporting, looking at what your competitors are doing with hashtags, and you can also use tools and software to do like social listening to see, for example, like BuzzSumo, where you can actually see which content and posts are performing the best.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of great tools, both free and paid, that you can use to find inspiration. And yes, I love that you mentioned to check analytics. It's very important. Now, can you tell us what is the social media campaign that you are most proud of, the one that comes to your mind right away?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if you know London that well, but in London there's a area called like Piccadilly Circus. It's like kind of in the center of London, and there's a big screen. So imagine like a stadium-sized screen. It's huge. One campaign that I did when I first started for Samsung was on Valentine's Day. I got to send tweets from the Twitter account straight onto this big screen, and this is thousands of people in the city are walking and seeing this thing. And we did a huge campaign. We had about two wedding proposals. People proposed because they sent their tweet up there. Loads of nice messages. We had people in like fairy wings, like walking around the city with like Samsung messages and stuff. And that got picked up by a lot of media. And that was probably a really good campaign because I could see my tweets go straight to the screen. You could see the excitement of the buzz of people, looking at it when they're walking through the city. And it's just an exciting campaign to be a part of. And probably the second one would be working on the London Olympics, because when I was at Samsung, they were officially in a sponsor. So we got to be a huge part of that torch relay and to be part of the event itself. But the Valentine's Day campaign was probably the most fun to be a part of, and the biggest one that I can think of in terms of impact, especially since that was my first big campaign.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure it is quite exciting and rewarding to see your work in front of so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
But can you tell us what are the steps of setting up a social media campaign? Because we as users, we see the result, but sometimes we may not know the process behind it, right?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing you want to do, it's a bit backwards, but you start with the end in mind. So like, what do you want to achieve from this campaign? Because in social media and marketing, there's only three things you could really do. You could do brand awareness. You can obviously have traffic and engagement. And obviously then you have your sales or downloads or the conversion type thing. The campaign will involve all three of those, but you need to decide as a business owner, what do you want to achieve from doing this activity? And if it's a mixture of, I want everyone to see my new product or my new trainers because I just launched it. That's brand awareness. If you want someone to buy your trainers, that's obviously in a conversion campaign. If you want loads of people to talk about your trainers and to tag it, that's like an engagement, and that would be like a user generated campaign. So to create your campaign, firstly, determine what the goal of the campaign is and be very specific. Try and put a number to that. For example, like, I don't know, 1,000 downloads or 5,000 website visits. It's always good to put a number so it's measurable. Next, I would look into budget in terms of if you're going to use paid social media, because when we talk about social, there's organic, which means it's free, and then there's paid, which means you use advertising. So decide if you're going to use paid, what your budget would be. And then obviously the lastly would be your content and what social channels you want to run this campaign on. So you kind of build a strategy for it. So is this going to be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat? And also, what content are you going to create? So if it's like trainers, do you need to find some young influencers to wear them? Do you need to do a photo shoot to show off the trainers? Do you need to interview some people, some sports stars or some kind of partners on people who wear the trainers? So again, you need to plan what the content's going to be and how you're going to create it. And then lastly, just have a timeline in place. A campaign in marketing can be anything from 2 weeks to 2 months. So make sure you set a realistic time frame from when you start the campaign to when you want it to end. And that way you could measure the results over that time.
That was really comprehensive, and thank you so much for that. Okay, can you tell us what are the most significant marketing challenges that you face? Because I'm sure that even when doing a social media campaign, even with your years of experience, I'm sure that sometimes there are some struggles that you face with.
Yeah, and do you mean social media in particular, campaign-wise?
Yeah, sure.
So struggles you face running social media, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah, so I guess at this stage, there's always going to be struggles because you're always adapting each time that you come into work, and each week, like I said, is different. So one would be planning your content in advance, because sometimes like we might wake up tomorrow and something's trending all of a sudden, like that. Everyone, like by the time we're listening to this podcast, the Will Smith thing happened a little while ago, right? But if something like that happened and your brand had an opportunity to be part of the conversation, obviously making sure it's relevant, you need to be able to adapt your strategy. So one of the hurdles is make sure there's a plan in place if things like this happen, that you know who you can speak to quickly turn around some new messaging and some new content for that particular occasion, because every day on Twitter new things trend. So it'll be to be reactive will be the first challenge. Customer service is a second one. People have to sleep, they have to have a life, so you can't be on your phone or your desktop 24/7. So have a customer service plan in place, like what hours do you respond to? Be very realistic with your social media followers, because you are going to get mentions like at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. But make sure you set those expectations straight away with those customers, because one big challenge could be that someone's angry and they tweet you at 9 at night and they don't hear from you till 9 in the morning. So make sure there's a plan to respond to those people, or even set a message while you're out of office hours to say that we'll get back to you as soon as you can, or even give them an email address as an alternative. So customer service and being reactive are probably two the biggest ones you'd face initially. And the last one is just make sure you understand your numbers, because whether it's your boss or your client, they're going to want to know if this thing is working, and telling them about how many followers you got might not necessarily be enough. So you need to learn things like website traffic and engagement, and how well the person is doing to help the business. Like, what's the business impact of what you're doing on social media?
That's great. I love that you mentioned setting boundaries. I think it's really important, and I feel like people don't talk enough about this, especially in social media, which never sleeps, right? Because we've all seen those memes with social media managers posting on social media on their vacation or things like that. So yeah, it's very important to respect your time.
Exactly. And it's good for mental health. It's such a big thing that, the generation now that are coming into work, like working 10, 12 hours a day, it's easy to get burnt out. So you need to have these conversations with your boss and manager as soon as you can, so you avoid, being stressed about it on weekends and in your spare time and always checking your phone. So it's always best to be open and realistic with the hours that you're willing to work.
Definitely, couldn't agree more. Yeah. Okay, can you tell us some tips on increasing brand awareness on social media from your experience? How do you do that?
Yeah, sure. So if we start at the basic level, the definition of brand awareness, obviously, for most people is to just get their content seen by as many people as possible. Right. There's no website, there's no sales. It's literally just, I want as many people as possible to see this or listen to it, or to actually take part in this piece of content, to engage with it. So to increase brand awareness, there's a couple of things you can do. The first one would be obviously paid advertising. So to promote the video or to promote the content, it gets it across to as many people as possible. Secondly, would be collaborations with like other brands. So if you partnered with another business, then you could obviously double the amount of people that you're sending the posts out to, and you also get the chance of a brand new audience seeing the post and engaging with it and sharing with it. So again, that ticks the box of brand awareness. Thirdly, you can do influencer outreach. So there's two types of influencers. There's micro influencers, who are influencers with smaller followings, like maybe 0 to 50,000, and then 50,000 upwards are like your your key big influencers. So depending on the size of your business, if you do influencer outreach and you negotiate a good price and a good deal for sharing your content, that's a great way to get brand awareness out, because they'll tag your business and they'll engage with it. And these communities, depending on the size of it, your message could reach thousands in a simple matter of one story or one post. And we've seen it happen when I've been working on accounts, and even with Agorapulse, when we've worked with partners and influencers, we've seen the traffic and brand awareness go all the way up. So I guess those would be the three key things. So partnership with brands, paid social media, and obviously influencer outreach are going to help you to scale your brand awareness in the long run and even the short term. So you just need to make sure you have that timeline that we talked about in terms of your campaign. So you can plan all of the brand awareness to be within the same 2 weeks as your campaign, for example, so you can get the maximum eyeballs on your content.
Yeah, I love the mix of those. And even if you don't have the budget for paid media,
Yes.
there are also always alternatives for getting your message across, right? So
yeah, exactly. Because micro influencers, the ones with 0 to 50, like might have 10,000 followers, they might not need money.
Yeah.
So if you're like a retail store, maybe you send them a free perfume or a product, which costs like 20, $30. And in return, they'll tag you in the stories, they'll share it. They're way more open to it. If you approach someone with like 90,000, that they want more money. And, so you want to find, if you're a small business, you don't have budget, you can still build good relationships with someone. And even if you give them a discount code or a free product, you'll find they'll be happy to work with you because they're just starting out and growing their channel.
Exactly. They need you at the end of the day as much as you need them. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you think of what skills do you need to be successful as a social media manager? I think we've touched on those before, but if you could just put them
sure.
together.
Creativity is one, because social media compared to when I started was so new, but nowadays every brand pretty much is on social. So the real creative part of the role is how you're going to stand out with your business and your brand. There's so many pet foods, there's so many perfume. So creativity would be the first one in terms of the skill. You need to be able to come up with ideas and new ways of thinking to kind of give that brand that life. Secondly, I would say the skill would be kind of part of creativity, but don't be afraid to infuse your personality into the content. Those days have gone where you just tweet out like download my report. Like when people tweet you and you tweet back or they reply to you, you want to add your personality to it. You want to ask them how they're doing and what they did last weekend, and have some fun with the engagement. So a lot of brands give their social media managers that freedom to express themselves. So I'd say to be expressive would be the second key one. And the third one, I'd probably say to be analytical, because one thing that still happens, unfortunately, is social media is still not as highly well known in the job market compared to like a senior accountant or something. Like the salaries aren't as high. Like the world's best social media manager for a company isn't making the same as like a world's top lawyer or accountant or something. Like the range isn't quite there. So for social media managers today, it basically means you need to be able to prove what you're doing is having a real impact on the business. And for someone that runs social media, understanding your numbers and your reporting and telling your boss how you're helping to grow the social media channels, but how it's also helping the business, is going to help make you way more valuable in your role. And maybe you might go from social media manager to account manager to head of social to social media director. Then those skills are going to be vital for you to help build a good, strong career in social media. So creativity, be expressive, and have an analytical mindset so you can understand what's working and what's not within your brand or within your market that you're managing social for.
This is the thing that I keep hearing the most from social media managers: being creative and analytical at the same time. Yeah. And now, because our podcast session is coming to an end, I always like to ask this question to my guests. If you could teach me 3 things about social media, what could you teach me?
Oh, wow. First of all, don't chase the followers. That's one thing I'll teach you. You could only have 100 or 1,000 followers, but if you focus on engagement and building the conversation and the community, the followers obviously will increase, but the community are the ones that come back to your product, to your website, and to engage with you. And that's what should be at the forefront of your marketing. So look at your social media channels more than just your followers. That'd be the first thing. The second thing will be to have fun with it. It's a very creative job, but yes, it can be stressful. But as a social media manager, it should be something that you look to enjoy each day. And the way you do that is to find out what you love doing. If it's creating videos, you put videos together. If it's designing posts, looking at memes, looking at GIFs, bring that fun that you have in your personality to the brand and express those ideas, because your boss or manager won't have the same ideas you have. So having fun with it and being expressive with your ideas is something that is only unique to you. And that's something I'd say no one can take away from you. So always express that in the role. And the third thing I would say with the role is don't be afraid to try different industries or companies that you work for, because like you said, it might be the fact that if you work in a really corporate environment, doing social media for like a bank is completely different to doing social media for I don't know, like a food brand, right? So you may not find that perfect company in your first ever job, but then working through different industries and having that experience is going to be key for you. So even if you are working in a particular industry, the third tip would be to get inspiration from other industries and try and apply it to the one you're working for, because not every company has to post the same. So even if you are managing a bank, you could learn from some food companies, or you could learn from some clothing companies and apply those strategies to the bank as well, so you can make stuff like that more fun. So look for inspiration from different industries would be the third one.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so to sum up, you said don't just look at numbers. Of course, numbers are great, but these are not all that social media is all about. Remember to have fun, because yeah, social media at the end of the day, this is what it was meant for, right? To have fun and to relax and enjoy ourselves. And the third thing would be to experiment with different industries, different companies. Definitely, I definitely agree. Thank you so much, Ravi. Can you tell us now at the end, what are your future plans and where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I'm at Agorapulse, so you can find us on Twitter at Agorapulse UK IRL. And yes, I'm running my own agency called Karma Wolf, so you can find me on www.karmawolf.com and on Twitter and Instagram at Ravi Shukla. So don't be afraid to say hi.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. It was a really, really enjoyable discussion. And speak to you soon.
Thanks, Theodora. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.